am thy father's spirit. Doomed for a certain term to walk the night. And for the day confined to fastened fires. To the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away.
I woke up from another dream tonight into an empty memory. That dissolved away before my eyes, but lingered on in misery. I woke up in a room so dark and quiet, reminiscent of the moon, like the room that I once knew in childhood is now a very different room.
I guess I make what you could call experimental hip-hop, or some people might call it art rap. The whole album is about dealing with, like, I guess, the death of my father. So the first song is about waking up from a dream that I had about my father. I had gone to stay with my mom in my childhood home. The first song is about that, and I have samples of radio in a specific part of the song, and part of that was because I used to sleep to the radio. I used to sleep to like CGOB, and there'd be like old radio shows on like at a certain hour, and so often I'd wake up and there'd be this weird old radio show playing. And so I wanted to like include that to be kind of true to that experience, but I also think that there's something interesting with the connection between like radio and dreams, and how you're kind of receiving these transmissions that are coming from like elsewhere and showing up in your dreams. And so I was trying to play with that, because I'm waking up from a dream and there's a sample of the radio. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think of when I think of that.
From on high and up the stairs, I woke up in another haunted house. It felt as though someone was there. This this unholy home, this it's unholy gold.
Inside an old grieving house, its tired bones creaking as it breathed in and out. I was tucked in deep like an organ hidden underneath skin, listening within flesh, auscultation in depth. Through walls of sinew, I heard a weary widow sigh heavily and lie her head gently down on a teary pillow. In my ear I could hear the beating of an aching heart, thumping softly somewhere off in the warm and dank and dark. I've woken up but the dream keeps revolving. Time comes undone and repeats the same moment. I'm in the fog of a haunted unconscious. Whose body is this? Am I the son of the father's illness? I could see it, the blood in the toilet. He kept secret to himself. He became thoughtful and quiet, receding somewhere else. Often I would sit with him, not talking, in silence. Not long till I went unacknowledged by him. In a palliative bed, bed, the last of them so small and so shrunken. His sunken face is stayed and as still as a mountain. I was in the corner in orbit like a satellite. His corpse a planet, weighing down time and space around it. I can make no sense of it or sort out any sort of meaning. Lost faith in words to form sentences or express feeling. I couldn't interpret my own thoughts in a constant state of shock. Couldn't follow anything long enough to give shape to the chaos. I was lost in forgotten dreams and screen memories. In the age of disruptions to subjective identity. Rootless with no future, a settler on unsettled land. Overwhelmed with the hopelessness and the void that is what I am. Penniless and broken with no friends and nowhere to go but back to a home that is no longer a home anymore. Where there's ghosts in the halls that whisper my name as we walk by each other on separate planes. And the sky stretches out infinitely with an endless amount of worlds just like ours. And a finite amount of...
When I was like 11, 12, 13, like the music that was on the radio was sort of like the post-grunge stuff. It was very, very depressing. I liked hip-hop because it was talking about very difficult things and the difficult situations that people were living through, but it did it with an attitude that I'm gonna persevere through this. I also like the fact that on hip-hop albums there can be a lot of different textures, whereas like on a rock album most songs are just the guitar, the bass and the drum and the vocals, and that's every song. But on a hip-hop record you can have brass, you can have piano, you can have strings, you know, and it can be different every song, and I was drawn to that for sure.
The time is out of joy. Oh, cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right.
Seasons change, mad things bring a rain, but it don't stay the same. It don't stay the same. Seasons change, mad things bring a rain, but it don't stay the same. It don't stay the same. Seasons change, mad things bring a rain, but it don't stay the same. It don't stay the same. Seasons change, mad things bring a rain, but it don't stay the same. It don't stay the same.
Welcome to Telebus. The current time is 9:08. Please enter or say the 5-digit stop number now. You have entered an invalid stop number.
A desolate city road. Winter evening, a bus approaches on a barren street where we rarely see anybody but ghosts. Always ask for a transfer, avoid eye contact from both sides of the aisle. The light shines accusatorily. Blank faces stare until you secure a seat.
Look for current time. Press or say.
They all move machine-like in a terrible unison. I am trembling inside. Are they even human?
I did not hear your response.
I blew hot air on the window and rubbed the side of my fist against it in a circular motion so I could watch scenes from the street flash by, but couldn't catch much cause it was dark outside. But saw my own eye reflected in the dirty glass. Took a second to recognize who was staring back, not knowing where we were going. For a moment I figured out, after slightly panicking, this bus is two different routes.
There is, alas, no progress. No, these are older repetitions. As it is with editions of past worlds, so it is with those of future worlds. Only the chapter of bifurcations remains open to hope. that all we could have been here, we are somewhere else.
He embarked with such fucking confidence. I never expected to see someone like him on this bus. To his credit, he looked for other spots vacant, but the only one not taken was the one next to me. Crooksy, he explained, but before I could respond, he launched into his life story since the last song. His scholarships, his college degrees, his 6-month internship in Los Angeles. Now he's back in the city, but just for the time being, teaching a couple courses at the university, of course. He's been considering finishing his PhD. Well, that's if they don't give him a faculty position. Through his self-satisfaction, his attention turned to me. What's been happening? What have you been up to, if anything? Blathering about his earning potential. He smirkingly asked me if I was still rapping. I actually said no.
The second song is very authentic to a real experience that I had. It's, about getting on a bus and running into someone I went to high school with. And I was at a very low place, not feeling very good about myself and where I was in life. And they were feeling very good about themselves. And that experience was almost too perfect. It's not very often you have those experiences that are kind of so artful in themselves. As a complete piece, I was trying to deal with the ghosts of where I am now and where I wanted to be as a youth. And so it was kind of perfect. I run into this guy on the bus who was kind of living the life in a way that I wanted to be living, and I was just nowhere near where I wanted to be. So that was an interesting experience.
To replay the last message, press pound. To hang up, press 9. To start over, press star.
When we were kids, he lived 2 doors down. He always had every new toy that came out. His mom was so nice and his house was so clean, with soft carpeting that cushioned your sock feet. Back home had holes in the walls, no doors in the cupboards, and everyone always yelling at each other. Once I ran home with the G.I. Joe in my pocket, hid it under my bed, too ashamed to take it out again. I thought that would be the merciful end, but instead we got off the bus at the same stop and walked in the same direction. He had recently bought a home on the street that we both grew up on. Moving back to the block my mom still lives on, with his beautiful wife and his 2 children. When he questioned where I was headed, my response was to my mom's to visit her. It was 11:30 o'clock. I'm not sure why I would admit I was living there. Pitch black in the hall with the glow that spills from the crack underneath her door. I tiptoe real slow up the stairs. She is scared I'm a ghost as I float over top the creaky floor.
I went to sleep that night in the same bedroom. I used to turn out the lights, put on my headphones. Staring up at the sky, out the window. Bringing back to life all of these dead ghosts.
I'm trying to make my music more reflective of how we experience time. I guess transcend the sort of regular song structure. I'm not interested in verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. So I try to break that down and try to tell narratives that start in the middle, then come back to the beginning and end up somewhere else. And then I'm trying to also create more room and space. I'm becoming very interested in kind of creating new pieces of music for every performance I do, especially locally, because I have some friends who are more into kind of sound art and noise stuff. Every show they do is something completely new, and I think that's a really cool idea, so I'm trying to emulate that.
That won't walk. I can't stand being in this kitchen, looking at this dishwasher like I could fix it. It's a shame I can't replace my father. Now that he's gone, this place falling down on her. The basement still piled high with empty bottles and tourist guides of places they plan to travel. None of in the palms, unsure how she'll cope another night in his haunted house alone.
I don't recognize this house. Does it change that much? In the summer evening breeze coming through the screen door, happy noises from the street, laughing friendly neighbors. Record on the technique, music in the speaker. Me and my whole family sitting at the table. I don't recognize myself in the stain that won't walk.
That year I was living in southern Ontario. I'd call home every weekend on the telephone, and we would speak about Ouija boards and mediums and other desperate means of reaching him. Too many things had been left unsaid. He was in denial and wouldn't breach the subject. I would sit and listen to her grief from a distant disbelief of a retreat into mysticism.
I take inspiration from a lot of different things. In my formative years, when I was developing my own style, was sort of the underground hip hop that was coming out in the late 90s and early 2000s. So, Raucous Records or Def Jux or Anticon was very influential as well. But now it really depends. I get drawn to certain albums that I don't necessarily listen to a lot of music in that genre, but that album will really speak to me. I also think a lot about film when I'm making my music. I'm very interested in slow cinema right now, and I think about that a lot and the themes that go on in those films when I'm making my music nowadays as well.
The horrors we forget, just to keep going. I am haunted every day by a ghost without a name, no face, no origin or grave. Buried and I'm still carrying this prehistoric inheritance.
And when I awoke, in the middle of the night, astonished to find myself in a state of darkness, not knowing where I was. I could not even be sure, at first, who I was.
Laying in bed, maybe it was me all along who has been dead, who is haunting this house and can't accept. Moving on from it now, I don't recall anything beyond these walls. There's nothing outside. My memories are like remnants of dreams from another life.
But then, the memory would come like a rope, let down from heaven, to draw me up, out of the abyss of non-being.
I partner with Gwen, who's a filmmaker and artist, and I've known Gwen for many years. Worked on a couple of her films, and I think she's worked on a couple music videos of mine. The craftsmanship in her work is just so unbelievable, like the things she comes up with. I'm always so impressed by what she does. I asked her to do this, and we had a couple meetings where we just talked about what we could possibly do. I told her about what I was thinking, and then she would come back with some really great ideas. I sent her sort of the demos I was making of the music so she could get an idea of what it was about. And then she just took some of my suggestions or some of what I was thinking and just took it to a whole new level, and then put her like very unique personal touch on it. And it just turned out like better than I ever could imagine. I think when she was telling me she was going to project my face onto a plastic bag, I was like, yeah, okay. And then when I actually saw it, I was just like, wow, like I was just blown away by it. You have to have humor. Even in like depressing songs, I think there has to be some sort of humor to make it human. You know, not everything's completely depressing and not everything's completely joyous.
Thank you.